Hello, welcome once again to Cityscope. I'm your host, Jeff Pearson. Cityscope is a show that really focuses on what things are happening in Charleston that can be replicated all over the state, and wonderful things that are happening all over our state and the cities and communities and they do wonderful things. So one of the wonderful things that the City of Charleston has done the last 2 years is we've established a Youth Art Month Juried exhibit. And what that means is exactly what it sounds like. We wanted to uplift our young people through their visual art. And so the first year we really started with a few pieces, actually 75. And it was a small show in downtown Charleston. And the mayor and I met and thought, what can make this show bigger and more impactful for our community is making it bigger physically and with more kids involved. And so this year, our 2024 Juried exhibit, we had 175 pieces from students from all over the county. We hope to expand it more next year because the most important thing we can do with our art is share it. And we had these young people with their great pride in what they were doing visually and creating. I think it was Picasso that might have said, we're all artists when we were kids, but it's trouble to say an artist as we're an adult or something like that. I'm sure I'm messing up that quote. But the important thing is that we create even as adults and young people, especially high school students, working through their emotions and transitions to adulthood through creative expression and art. So I do want to talk about that some more. We have some guests on the show today to talk about their work. Before we do, I want to show a quick video that shows our exhibit, and it actually shows our award winners. This year we established several award winners. And again, it's not about the awards, but about the recognition and the achievement these young people are making through their art. And the show is kindergarten through 12th grade, so we had some young little kiddos, all the way up to some students getting ready to go into college, and we're really excited about the show. Take a look at the video. We'll come back and talk more. So that was a little taste of the Charleston Youth Art Month exhibit. And one thing I do want to mention, there's a ton of awards, and I'd love to go individual piece by piece by piece, but I do want to point out and talk about one particular award, the Mayor's Choice Award. And that tells a real story about a young person who works through things with their art. And the piece was called Cracked But Not Broken. And it's a message to all of us that things might not be perfect, but we can get through things, even if it's through art or whatever expression you might have. It could be sports or music, whatever that is. But it was a real testament to the power of visual art. And this young person, she just loved to paint, and she would often give her paintings away to folks. And the mayor and I really enjoyed getting to know her and her story. And I'm sure if we spoke to each one of the students from the show, we'd have over 100 stories of how they create and what it means for them to make art and how that they can express themselves, like I said, but also how they can establish their individuality and their personality through their art. And art can do a lot of things. So with that, we're bringing some of the artists from the show on today and some teachers. But first, I want to bring on our first artist, Talina Williams. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
And you were our Best of Show winner.
Yep.
Again, it's not about the awards, but it's also, that piece was pretty incredible. So let's talk about you first. You're from South Charleston, you say?
Yep.
This was before we were getting on the air. But do you remember like we always ask this question first. It's like a standard question we always ask for the show is, do you remember that first memory of Charleston, West Virginia? Maybe visiting as a kid or an event here that impacted you and you remember kind of a memory of Charleston?
My first memory of Charleston? It's probably like, I was born here, I grew up here. Definitely in my daycare, I lived pretty like central downtown, like South Charleston, down there by like the Mound.
Right.
So probably walking around there and getting to experience like the summer festivals and stuff.
Yeah. It's so funny because we all have the different memories of coming. Well, I'm from Charleston myself as well, and it's like going downtown Charleston and to the old. For my days, was the old Regatta and things like that. So it's always interesting to hear people's perspective of what the first impacts of this community in this area has on them. So you're a Catholic, but also I do want to talk about your art. We're going to talk about your art, but before that, I want to talk about a couple other things that you're interested in. A lot of kids your age are interested in a lot of different things, so it's not just visual art. But tell me some other things that you're into at school or otherwise, extracurricular.
Well, I play 3 sports: volleyball, basketball, softball. I like to stay active. Have a lot of energy I need to burn off.
Right.
And then I also do a couple academic things. Like I'm in Science National Honor Society.
Okay.
And I do Science Olympiad. It's pretty fun. There's nothing like too stressful. You just get to do like learn about science and like participate it with your friends and like learn from your teachers more about stuff like that. And I'm also in French club because I'm in my 4th year of French.
Wow. So having said all that, and you talked about before we came on the air about improv. And that's an extracurricular you do, and you were with the Auburn Theater for a little bit, working with them in some of the workshops there. Out of all of this, first let me ask you this, kind of a generic question, but it's also interesting. What's one of your favorite things of all those activities? Do you have one favorite?
Favorite activity out of all of them?
Yeah.
It was probably improv. I love to make people laugh.
Yeah, and with improv, it's just like, it's adrenaline and in the moment. So
Spontaneous.
Well, again, and with that, so I would ask, out of all the things that you do, what do you think impacts you the most as a person as you're getting older and deciding what you might want to do as an adult or a career? Do you have any leanings yet? Do you know?
It's definitely art.
Mm-hmm.
My mom says I should go into marketing because it's like has a good balance of like brains and like art in there,
Right.
bringing in different aspects of it. But it's definitely art. I mean, in school, you do school projects. I'm always the one people want for like the art related ones. So I'll get it done.
Yeah. Let's talk about the art then. When was do you remember like, all the way back, your first memory of making art? Maybe that's finger painting or whatever, but do you remember any like the first pieces you ever made?
First piece.
Or doodles even?
I mean, definitely had a bunch of doodles. I used to have like those little journals you get for like $1 from the Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
And I just, little pencils. I used to get yelled at in school for doodling all the time. So.
Me too, yeah. Especially in math class, which hurt me later in life. I should have paid more attention to math. But I think it's funny because as creatives, doodling and those kind of things, I asked you that because early on, those that have that kind of this side, the creative side of the brain, those early doodles sometimes will impact your whole aesthetic or your whole thought process on how you approach a piece. I remember as a young kid, I did these little almost like cartoon characters of faces, and that's what I do now, even as an adult. So those early doodles do have a lot of meaning of where we find our comfort in drawing and doodling. So you want to be an artist or somewhere in the art field?
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially. And marketing is something you're thought about as a career path because of the other side of it, the scientific side and the communication side and the history.
Yeah, I've also thought about being like a data analysis because I also like math. Unlike you, apparently. I like math.
Okay, well, yeah, those of us that are not very good at it need people like you to help us. So, and I will say I always make a public art plug in every single show, and I'll do it now, get it over with. But I realize, and this is for the kids out there, pay attention to math class because public art. I always thought in school I want to be an artist. I don't need to worry about math, but in public art, there's a lot of math involved, especially geometry, trying to figure out the scale of a mural, if you have a small drawing and trying to get it up to a giant wall, of how big it needs to be, or the scale, the square footage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Even some algebra in there. So it's something when you're in school, you never know what you're going to go into, but it's always important to pay attention to every class. I guess I found out the hard way. So I want to talk about your work, and what we're going to do is we're going to talk. You brought a few pieces we're going to look at. And we'll go piece by piece, and we'll just talk about them, how you created them, the techniques, and let's do it. Go ahead and go to the first piece here. So go ahead, tell us all about this one.
Okay, so just flowers, obviously, but I used gouache, which is it's like a hybrid between like watercolor and acrylic paint, and that was just me like testing it out. Actually, I do really love watercolor. I did one like art camp at the Clay Center one year, and there's this lady there. I do not, unfortunately, remember her name. But she used to do watercolor, and she showed us all her pictures and like how to do it. And I kind of fell in love with like bright, colorful watercolor pieces, sort of like Monet style stuff. I like that.
You mentioned one of our great assets in our community of Charleston is the Clay Center and their workshops and their watercolor classes. They have Ellie Shaw sometimes teaches those classes, and artists from the other communities come in, and we have local artists teach classes there, and it's just an incredible resource. And a lot of people do not know about it, so it's always nice that people are like I hear people going to those workshops. And I was looking at the schedule yesterday. Even all the workshops that are coming up at the Clay Center. Let's go ahead and take another look at the next piece. Rather, sorry. So this is a much different piece from the first one we saw. What's different here? What's your medium choice here?
Yeah. So I try to do pointillism, and this was for my French class. So I did this freshman year. And in French class, we don't just learn about like the language, we learn about the culture too. And so this is sort of like George Seurat based with the pointillism. And I did this is Wyoming, it's Yellowstone, like the geysers and stuff. I've always wanted to go to Wyoming. I love nature. So I decided to combine two of my favorite things, art, Wyoming, into one for my school project.
So you mentioned Seurat. I was going to ask you that. I was going to quiz you, but you said it before I had a chance to. Seurat was, of course, the king of pointillism. Do you remember the piece, which we had to show folks what pointillism is? And
like the walk in the park or whatever?
Yeah, Sunday afternoon.
Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. So for folks that are out there, like, what's pointillism? Tell them all about it.
Well, it's tiring.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a bunch of tiny dots that end up like in one big photo. So, it's like that one famous piece, like Polar Bear in the Snow, where it's just like two black dots. But
exactly. That's what people always say, a blank piece of paper. It's a polar bear in the snow blinking, right? Yeah, closing his eyes maybe. So pointillism is one of the pieces, also as you get closer, you see the actual dots, but if you pull it further away, the piece comes together, yeah. I'm really excited about the next three, because I'll get to them. Let's go ahead and show the first one. Oh, there's actually four left, sorry, go ahead. Tell us about this one.
Well, it's a hippocamp. I also used to love mythology back in the day, so mythical creature. And it looks like watercolor, but I actually used acrylic for it, because I always like pushing limits with things. Again, I said I love watercolor, but I wanted to do it on canvas, so I used acrylic. And
with acrylic, did you find that with acrylic, you can kind of build it up? With watercolor, the transparency kind of stays. So with acrylic, you can build that up. And the textures you were creating there, I could see that as acrylic washes and layers.
Yeah, it's like watercolor. You have to plan ahead. Acrylic, you make a mistake, you can kind of go back on that.
Grab some white, yeah.
Yes.
So I jumped the gun. These next three are very unique. And of course, the last one we'll look at is the best of show. So let's look at these. The first one coming up here. What I found so fascinating about these pieces is the medium. And you mentioned gouache and watercolor and acrylic, but you're using a medium that a lot of students in high school do not use because they feel like it's too childlike. But what you've done with it is amazing. You've made used a medium that we used early on in our elementary career, as it were, and you've made it look fantastic. I'll let you talk about it. So tell me all about the medium here.
Well, I did this last year, and I did it in crayon, just your regular Crayola piece. And this is just the first drawing I did with crayon. It's just like a random girl I found online. I thought she was pretty, so I decided to draw it.
Well, and you're getting a lot of texture and color. The one thing about crayon is that it is hard to blend, and what you're doing with these pieces, the next three that we're looking at, is just incredible. Let's go to the next one.
This one is, the iconic Marilyn Monroe. I've always looked up to her, and in history class we've learned about like JFK and all that history. So I was inspired to draw her.
Oh, it's great. And let's go to the last one. And so this one was, of course, the best of show for the 2024 Juried exhibit, and again, everybody that came through, all of our judges, even the mayor, was so taken by this piece. Tell us what's happening. What are we looking at?
Well, it's me and my best friend Bella, and we're kind of like, it's like you can't exactly tell in the photo, but I did take it from our friend's photo from when I was little. We're actually in the Charleston Town Mall. And we're in one of those like little play cars they put a quarter in.
Like the Richard Scarry apple bug.
Yeah,
car.
like one of those things.
Yeah, we were trying to guess the other day of what it was, and we were thinking maybe it was a bus. So we were close. And again, what that piece does, it tells a story, and the technique's just amazing. And really, thank you for coming in and sharing your work and your story. And I hope for the best and hope you keep making art.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a quick break. And we'll be back here in just a few and talk more about art.
I was 0.5 credits away from completing high school, and I didn't do it. My support team never stopped pushing for me to be better because they knew who I could become as a person. I've been given an opportunity, and I'm just thankful for it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
All right, welcome back to the second segment of Cityscope. We're talking about Youth Art Month and the Juried exhibit the City of Charleston has now for a couple years, and we're hoping it just continues to grow. And with that, we have two more guests to come on the show to talk about it. Welcome, Nisha Shank and Kalia Reed. Thank you so much for coming from Herbert Hoover High School here in Kanawha County. We're going to talk about Youth Art Month, but first I want to talk about art in general and your background. And one question we always ask everybody, I'll pose this for Kalia first, is growing up in Charleston, or maybe you didn't grow up in Charleston and ask that question, but your first kind of impression of Charleston, West Virginia as a kid, or maybe younger, baby, or first memory?
Well, when I first moved here on the road, it seemed very beautiful, very peaceful. I still think it is.
So you're not from here?
No, I'm not from here.
Where are you from?
I'm from Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Oh, nice. Okay. When did you come to Charleston?
In the 4th grade.
Oh, wow.
Pretty young.
And so where did you go to grade school?
I actually can't even remember the school. It's been a while. It's been a while.
That's okay. Well, welcome to Charleston. Now you've been here for a while. So on that same note, like remembering your first interaction with art, whether that be music, dance, visual art, do you remember some of those first experiences with art and creating things?
My first experience with art would definitely be like when I was really, really little, and my mom would get us coloring books, and I'd flip to the very back of the page of the coloring books and try to replicate the traces and everything, and then I'd make my own. I think that was probably my first.
So how does that impact you now? Like knowing, we were talking about this earlier on the show, some of those early doodles impact like the rest of your visual career or visual path. Do you think that either like early tracing, or not tracing, but trying to create some of those original drawings, do you still feel like some of those things you have in your work now?
Definitely. I think that resembles like why I love realism so much. I like to like replicate it, but then also kind of make it my own and build it into myself a lot.
Nisha, I want to ask you the similar question. What was one of your first impacts or memories from Charleston, West Virginia?
So I'm originally from Summersville, West Virginia, which is kind of a small town.
Right.
So my grandmother used to take us Christmas shopping, and we'd go to the town center, and I always remember just being in awe of, how massive it was.
Yeah.
And like I thought Charleston was this huge city. And most of my memories are from the town center and just walking through and looking at all the Christmas decorations. And I remember those big orbs that came down.
Right.
And the big Christmas tree.
And it's funny because you think about what's going to be the next generation's memories and those kind of things. And we start doing like the Holly Jolly Brawley now at Christmas time and different things we're doing downtown. The things that kind of shifted. Although we're doing some big things near the mall and the Coliseum and things like that as well.
Yeah.
So you are yourself, you're an artist, and so I'd ask the same question as well. Do you remember some of those first attempts at art or doodles as a young person?
Yeah, so I have these very vague memories of coloring books and crayons and melting the crayons on my baseboard heater. But I also used to draw my dad when he would take naps on the couch. And I think I got really good at drawing people that way just because I would just draw what I saw and he'd stay perfectly still and it was great.
Well, I think we were talking about this earlier on the show. It's so important that we continue to draw. A lot of adults say, well, I can't draw a stick figure, or I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. But I think it's really important that we keep creating in some way as adults, whether that's visual art, performing art, music, whatever. I think it's important.
Yeah,
and I think at a high school level, especially, you're guiding these young people to whether they're going to have a career in it, or what if it's just something that's going to still be part of their life, or they're going to move on to something else. With that, Kalia, what are you wanting to do moving forward? College, thinking about college, or what?
Well, I'm definitely thinking about college. I'm still unsure if I would like to major in art, of course. But I will never stop doing art. It's always something that I will continue to do, whether it's on the side, however that may be. But I'm planning to go into more of a veterinary field.
Nice. Well, I think one thing that you guys have a real advantage of, I think we have to talk about it, the facility, Herbert Hoover High School. Tell me a little bit about, I know it's still fresh, still new obviously, but tell me a little bit about how this facility is going to impact what you teach, how you teach, and how you learn. Let's start with Nisha.
So, before I was just in this little classroom, and we were packed in there like sardines, and
In a trailer, literally.
And so we were very restricted on what kind of equipment we could have, and what kind of materials we could use. We had no ventilation in there, so we couldn't use like oils and. We couldn't use clay. So now we have a facility with everything we need and all of the space that we need. So the kids have these wonderful tables that lift up, the drafting tables. We have ceramics, we have a kiln, we have 2 throwing wheels. We now have a CTE graphic design program. So the other art room is a digital art room. So we were able to get computers this year. We were able to get drawing tablets, Apple pencils, printers. So
it's an incredible.
There's
incredible
a lot that we can do now, and a lot more ways to show kids that there's more to art than just drawing and painting.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it will prepare them as well for whatever future they might have. And before we go, we have some time, just a few minutes. I want to look at your work specifically. You, of course, won first place in our Juried show, but there's also some other works that you brought with us to share today.
Yeah.
So let's look at the first piece. Tell me a little bit about this.
Well, so Miss Shank, she gave us an assignment to make a finger portrait, finger painting portrait. So, well, there's nothing too much to say about it.
So it's acrylic?
Yes, it's acrylic. It's an acrylic piece.
Awesome. Well, I want to, is it a self-portrait, you said?
Yes, self-portrait.
Awesome.
It's monochromatic too.
Monochromatic.
Oh, that's right. I was going to ask that. Awesome. Let's look at the next piece here. So a lot of your work, and I would just before I ask you this question, a lot of your work tells a story. Is that something you always think of first, or do you kind of, as you go, as you create the piece visually, you kind of bring the story along with that?
I definitely think of a story first.
Okay.
I think of the idea I want to have, and then I think of how that can be represented. Now originally this piece, the white primroses on it were supposed to be cotton, but I was thinking that was way too obvious. everyone would know what it was when they first saw it.
Right.
So I changed it to white primroses because they represent death. So it's like an escape from death.
Right. Wow. It's a really interesting piece. And this looks like Prismacolor, is it?
No, it's actually oil paint.
I can't tell from that. It's so small, so far away from me on the screen. Let's go to the next one. Okay, tell me about this.
This one is a color pencil drawing. I did this a couple months ago. I got the reference off of social media, and I incorporated a little bit of like hatching, and I deepened the contrast on it.
And the piece that you won with, I believe, is next. Let's take a look. Yeah, this piece. Tell me about it. The story, especially.
So this one is called Blue in the Face, and blue in the face represents being like angry and being remorseful for something. And the meaning of this piece in a whole is social labeling. Like if I was to come up to someone, they would label me based on what they see. And the stereotypes on this, you can see her hair, her accessories and everything like that. Even her clothing. The clothing that she's wearing right now is 1940s slave clothing. Mm-hmm. And down below you can see the labels say black, white, clean, and addict.
Right.
So I think those are like some main labels people, tend to say or think at least. And, her expression is very bland and, very dull because she's careless about it.
Right.
That she's tired of it. That's what's.
It's an incredible piece visually, but also hearing the backstory and hear the thinking, the critical thinking that goes into it, and the message you want to bring to the
Mm-hmm.
piece and to people that see it makes it all the more important that we shared it. You shared it with us, and that it had the acknowledgement it did.
Definitely.
I want to thank you both for coming in today and talking about your work. And I hope for you, as you move forward, whether it's a veterinarian or whatever it might be, that you continue to make art. And Nisha, just what you're doing at Hoover is amazing. All the work that's coming out of Hoover is incredible. We're so happy to have Hoover as a part of our community and our county. And we hope that next year when we do the Youth Art Month show that this continues to grow with students like you and leadership
Thank you.
like
We
you
have
guys
some
have.
very amazing students.
And I want you to make sure that you tune in to Cityscope. If you want to learn more about Youth Art Month, go to our website, cityofcharleston.org. And we'll see you next time on the show. Thanks for watching.